As a hacking professor, you teach a course called ethical hacking.
Yeah.
What are the dimensions?
So when we teach, here's the big piece. We want people who are defending networks to know how to hack. I often tell people the best defenders are really good hackers because they know how to get into systems, so they know where to look for the vulnerabilities and the problems. So now if you're a defender, you already know, I know what your MO is. I know what you're going to do to try to get into these networks, so I can create defenses specifically for that purpose. So that's why we teach ethical hacking. We teach them how to hack, but also to do it within the bounds of what the legal constraints are. So there are teams you can hire to come hack into your network, to test it, right? Red teams who will come in and actively engage against your network and try to take it down. Their whole job is to find vulnerabilities before a real hacker can do it. Mm-hmm. But they can't just go hack you anytime they want to. So the ethical part of that would be they have permission to do it, right? And they're limited in scope what they're allowed to do. So we teach people those kind of things, and we teach people the legal constructs around how different nations have different laws and what you can get away with and what you can't get away with. That's a big part of that.
Wow.
That's an interesting topic, very fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, I think when we think about warfare in 2025 and beyond, a lot of people think nuclear, they think cyber. I had paid attention to several airplanes that for some reason were just flying really low in like a 6-week span. Mm-hmm. This was probably a year ago. Okay. And it was like this plane in Hawaii took off, but then it didn't get elevation and almost ran into the mountainside. And this plane in Tulsa was flying at like 1,500 feet. And then the stories that kind of were coming out from the airlines were like, silly co-pilot accidentally put his hand on the thing. Yeah, it was like, that doesn't make sense.
That sounds a little odd.
That doesn't make sense. But it almost felt like to me they were, trying to hide that maybe there was some kind of, I don't know, is it possible? Can you, is our airplane system one of those things? It's like,
I don't know enough about communication streams between airplanes and the ground, but I think once we think about like wireless networks, for example, you only got so much range, right? So if your plane's already at 30,000 feet, unlikely anyone's breaking into that thing at that point. So even at 1,500 feet, I would think you're not going to really have the range to do anything. There's not a physical cable connected to it. So it'd have to be through some kind of wireless construct. What's being beamed between that plane and the ground? They turn on internet once you get in the air on most planes, right? Once you're above 10,000 feet.
Occasionally they do it before. As somebody who flies often,
yeah,
I'm grateful for the moments they do it before.
That's right. Me too. But I don't. Apart from that, I don't think you have any way to really connect in. So maybe potentially somebody could ride that satellite link back to the airplane, but that would be a pretty difficult.
So you think it's difficult?
I think it's definitely difficult.
What about when everyone's AT&T phone quit working for like 36 hours and they said it was because of the solar flare, which makes no sense to me. But
I remember that story, but I don't remember the details. A lot of times, like, similar story, right? When you have like Netflix goes down for like a whole day, or Amazon, dips for a couple of hours, and then they always come back. Or Facebook that time that died, right? Everyone was like losing their mind.
I lost my password. Somebody hacked me.
Yeah, everyone's going nuts. It's just Facebook, guys. Just go outside, read a book for a little while. Okay, calm down. But they came back. Oh, it was a configuration error, is what they usually say. And usually, what that means, it happens a lot. Somebody was updating something, and they had one little character wrong, or maybe they changed an IP address wrong, or one little minor thing, and it usually can shut down the entire operation for a while. And then you have to go figure out what was changed and who did it, and we got to change it back, right? That's actually very common, but you don't see it on large scale because most people are smart enough to really double check what they're doing. But occasionally that happens. So I think AT&T might have been in a similar
scenario. And then they blamed it on solar flare.
Yeah, you blame it on somebody else because you don't want to actually say you messed up.
But then it was like 6 to 8 weeks later, they came out with a report, and they're like, by the way, every person's text messages that's used AT&T have been hacked,
stolen by the Chinese, yeah, or something to that effect.
Yeah,
you're like, oh, that sounds interesting. Why is that interconnected? Yeah, we think that.
So you're not conspiratorial, in other words. I keep presenting the wild conspiracies.
You're trying.
To you.
You're really
like,
trying.
Nah, somebody just didn't know the IP.
Yeah, somebody really screwed up the code somewhere when they were doing an update. No, I can. I think because of my years in the military and knowing how military operates, I can usually tell when it's just somebody messing up or when it's actually like an operation against somebody, right? Okay, COVID. Let's talk about COVID for a second in this category. When they came out initially in COVID and said, nobody needs masks, remember at the beginning, nobody needs masks, you're going to be fine. I'm like, that is totally, like, that's completely a lie. It's clear that you guys are trying to hide something, right? And then a few weeks later, they admitted, oh, we wanted to make sure we had enough masks for doctors. So I saw that as kind of a military, reverse psychology type operation.
I call that a psyop.
Yeah, it was very obvious. It was very obvious to me anyways, but some people maybe didn't pick up on that. So I can detect those things pretty quickly because I've seen it enough, right? So I think with a lot of those things, the AT&T, whatever, usually it's just somebody with a misconfiguration.
Man, I wish it was.
I know
more.
you want a conspiracy, but sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just like a solar flare. That makes no sense. AT&T went down. Now everybody's text messages are hacked, and somebody has them.
Maybe
somewhere.
related. Okay, those two may be related. Maybe not. I mean, yeah, we've heard if a hacker can get into a big enough system, right? If they get into AT&T's, core server or something, you get access to a lot of content. That's what they want. They want that data. They want that information. They're hoping that, if you're a nation state, for example, you're hoping you can pick up the phone conversations for people who are really important to figure out what's going on, right? So,
Zach and I were in Austin. My cousin Rose was with us. We got an Uber, and it was a Waymo.
Okay.
Which is a robot car.
Self-driving, yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
Wait, as an Uber?
Yes.
Oh.
We just was like, beep, boop, 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 beep. That car has no human in it.
Did you get in?
Yeah.
And?
It had my name on the top of it, like just rolling around like Tyler, Tyler.
I've seen the Waymo things going around, filming the cities and things, but I didn't know they were doing self-driving.
They've done 10 million
people.
rides as of last week.
And they've all worked okay?
So far.
I think self-driving cars are cool. The problem is humans, right? So I think the only way self-driving cars ever actually works is if all cars are self-driving cars, because then they're all operating by the same rules. Humans aren't operating by the same rules, right? We're speeding, or people are cutting people off too close or whatever. And so I think that's the problem. If you didn't have that, or you didn't have the people just randomly running in front of cars, I think self-driving cars would probably be very effective.
Yeah, they're probably ultra cautious, which makes your ride maybe a little slower.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's my guess. It's kind of creepy, though, to be like, I'm in this car, there's no human.
Yeah, I don't know what I think about that. I didn't know they were... this was here in Tennessee?
No, it was in Austin.
Oh, it was Austin.
Although I did see one in Nashville. I think they're deployed in 4 cities right now. Austin, San Francisco, and I can't think
somebody
of
in the
two.
city would have to, I think, sign off on that and say, yeah, you can have a humanless car driving around the city.
They've done 10 million
right?
paid rides
So
on Uber.
Must be a test. They must have got approval and someone's letting them do a test for a while. 10 million.
I mean, I think
What's that percentage-wise as to the number of Ubers that happen every month, I wonder?
a fraction.
Yeah, I would think a small
I think
number.
there's 9 million Uber rides a month in Chicago alone.
Okay.
I don't know why.
Yeah, that's a random stat to know in Chicago.
It's because, Tesla, I think, is trying to figure out how they can deploy. Tesla is doing this cool thing. If you own a Tesla and you go to bed at night, you can deploy your Tesla as a robot taxi and make money while you're sleeping.
That could pay for your Tesla,
Right.
potentially.
If you want drunk strangers in Nashville, that's what happens, I think. Because you go to Broadway, right